Hey everybody, thanks for watching. So yeah, real quick, Merkabah Scholar Society members, make sure you guys check the app for the new videos. There's about 3 or 4 new videos that have been posted on the app, as well as the last meeting video. That link has been up there, so make sure you guys check out the video. Everybody who reserved for the Egypt trip, make sure you guys go ahead and make that first payment. We're waiting on you guys. You guys still have a little bit of time, so make sure you guys take care of that. Also, there's going to be about 5 new videos coming up for the society, so make sure you guys stay tuned on the app for those new videos. But yeah, let's get into this video. So yeah, one of the biggest things we face in being conscious people when we look at, history, we have this argument from mostly Europeans and, Arab people that we are somehow trying to steal history from them. We're trying to basically take their history and steal their history because we always claiming that we were here before anybody else. That is a scientific and proven fact that anybody can look up, that black people, dark-skinned people were on the planet before anybody else. So if you Google that and look up that, you can see that clear as day. So it calls into question anybody who believes that their race or civilization were in or occupying a land that was already occupied by black people. So all these civilizations that we see are, that are not black, especially in Northern Africa, are on lands that were conquered away from African people. So you can even look up who were the original people of Northern Africa, and we know they were black people, right? So the whole sub-Saharan slave thing, or sub-Saharan Africa, I should say, was created to steal the identity away from black people in Northern Africa. So you can look at this and you can Google all this stuff and look at all the information. We were in these places long before any Europeans. It's called conquest. Conquest took place. And we can see this conquest in the Bible, as I always talk about, when you read about the tribes that were conquered by the Israelites, which that is basically covering up for the conquest of the Greeks and the Romans, right? So these Hivites and Jebusites and Perizzites and Girgashites, what have you, are the, ancestors of Ham, which would be the progenitor of the black race of African people. And, this is why the Bible is talking about these people being conquered, because this is what happened in real life. What's confusing people is the Semitic context. Because when you start to look up people, like if you look up Carthage and say, was the Carthage civilization black? It will tell you no, that it was Semitic people who basically established that civilization. And you'll scratch your head, because if black African people existed first, how could these people occupy a land that Africans was already there? And again, it just goes back to the context of who, put this history out. The history is, it's told by the conquerors, not the conquered. But clear as day, black people was there and existed in these lands before Semitic people, which Semitic people would be the people who speak the, Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, so what have you. And you also have to remember that America classifies Northern Africa, as well as the so-called Middle East, as being white. So it's one of the reasons why this doesn't make sense. And when you try to plug all this information into Google, it's giving you a different understanding, because they classify these people as being white. So saying black people existed here or was here, you're not going to get that response if they're classifying that land as being, of white origin. But we know clear as day, Arabs are a mixed race people. You can look that up. Same thing with the Persians, mixed. So again, how are these mixed people? Because if you're mixed, that means you had to be multiple races of people. One of them have to be black. So how could you exist before the people that created you? How could you be somewhere before the people that created you was there? We were everywhere, and we existed in these lands long before you guys. Now, today, more and more, a lot of people are waking up to the truth because of social media. Stuff is all over the place now. But a lot of people who don't, partake or want to accept it are in these forums and just spewing out so much crazy hate. It's a lot of people in these chat rooms who don't want to know the truth. They follow algorithms. The algorithm will basically give you information based upon your search history. A lot of it will fit the criteria that you want it to fit. So if you're looking up stuff with a certain ideology, then your search mission is going to give you that type of information, which is wrong information. And I think that's by design, to keep the people with that ignorant mindset about history filled with wrong knowledge. It's not hard at all to figure out the truth. So this argument always spills into the transatlantic slave trade, and that African people are somehow responsible for our own slavery because we sold black people into slavery. And this was not a widespread thing. As I broke down, you have certain African tribes sell their enemies into slavery. That in no way excuses everything that happened to black people during or after slavery. If I sell you a car, I don't expect you to hang that car from a tree or to set that car on fire. I don't expect you to treat property that you paid for in a horrible way, right? To destroy it, basically. This is what happened. So regardless of who sold who, you bought it. You are just as guilty. And even more so, like if, you buy somebody, we're talking about children that were sold. If you buy somebody with the pretext of saving them and you don't save them, you enslave them, you're worse than the people who sold them. And this is like this is what they want to kind of, insert that, hey, yeah, we bought these people because they were being treated like, hell in Africa, or they wasn't civilized. The whole notion was they civilized us when they brought us here because we wasn't civilized. Clear as day, we had kingdoms long before any Europeans that exist in Africa. The ruins still to this day. Talk about all this stuff all the time. We know about the many different kingdoms in Africa. Some of them still exist to this day, but we can also go and look in museums all over, right? Especially in London, especially in Rome. We can go into these museums and see African artifacts from clearly sophisticated civilizations that predate anything European. So you can't find me a European or Arab or anybody else other than the Chinese, which we know still came out of Africa. You can't find me a figurine or find me anything to equate to, the stuff we see from the people of Benin. There's this notion that we didn't invent anything, we didn't create anything, when history shows and proves the opposite, that we created these things long before Europeans had it. I mean, the concepts existed long before Europeans came into power, right? So the argument that we continue to have with a lot of ignorant Europeans is just the fact that they're ignorant and they're not doing, critical research. We can clearly see where the stuff came from. And it's not, has nothing to do with being racist or racism or hate or evil or what have you. It's the simple truth. And, we're the ones who always have to defend ourselves and defend history, because if you're saying we did nothing, right? We didn't invent anything. We had no sophistication, no intelligence. Of course, we're going to defend that, and we have to. I've talked about these geneticists who basically proved that, Asian people come from out of Africa and everybody else is basically a mutation of dark-skinned people. And clearly, if we was here first, we civilized first. We was in areas and countries first. This swept under the rug argument, I don't understand how we had it this long, when clear as day, if we were obviously here first, we occupied the land before you. We were everywhere. That's been proven. We have found the bones and civilizations of African people, black people, we're the oldest. We've been here longer than anybody, and we established civilizations across the globe. That's proven. Now, when you look in the whole aspect of spirituality and how we had this spiritual civilization across the planet and things that exist that far more, technologically advanced than what we see today, clearly came up under black rulership, black leadership, right? So when we look at the pyramids, we look at all these temples, we look at all over the world. We look at in Easter Island, we look at India, China, these temples that exist in, South America and all over, that these were built under dark-skinned people, and they can't be replicated. And clearly there was an advanced civilization that existed before European control, and something happened. And Europeans taking over is not a result of that, but something I believe that was planned and a part of it as well. So talked about when you go to Egypt. So when we take that trip next year, we're going to look into all this, and we're going to go and really get deep into this. And I want to take people into the Temple of Osiris to see what I saw. Can't take no photos, no videos. You're just going to see what you see, and it's going to blow your mind. So as I said, this plan was put in place, and these people knew what was coming. I believe the Egyptians knew what was getting ready to happen, and they set everything in motion for that. So the Valley of the Kings shows us that the fact that they were not being buried the same way at a certain point in time shows that they knew what was coming. Put everything in hieroglyphs. We have the writings on the walls. It's this teaching and this lesson that's there for us to take with us to move forward. Now, we look at that, and we can clearly establish a doctrine, a teaching that our ancient ancestors had, that they lived by. Why would the Europeans give us that teaching, right? Why would they tell us that if they understood it? Why would they give us that information, that knowledge? So clearly we are operating off knowledge that is not ours, that was given to us by them for us to operate off, because they didn't want us to know. And I spoke about how religion came and outlaw alchemy and everything that we were used to practice and have knowledge of, that was true power, that was true understanding of who we were. It was outlawed, and we had to forget about it. It's lost, and they have the knowledge of it, we do not. So always get into, when they talk about the slavery aspect of it, you guys sold each other into slavery. But, there was a teaching that Black people didn't have souls, that we were not even human. So if we didn't have souls and you were teaching that we didn't have souls and we wasn't human, why would you give us a doctrine like the Bible to try to save our soul? So it shows you that this teaching was being taught to us in a different capacity. So even if you go back to, as I said before, these tribes in the Bible were African tribes. You go back to the so-called curse of Ham, which they were teaching, right? When you go to the Library of Congress and read the slave narratives, there was a variation of that. So the Black Hebrews, always scratch my head as to why would you be trying to teach a doctrine in a different way that was taught to us during slavery? Because clearly, if you would teach that, hey, you guys are enslaved because you are the Jews, this is what happened to you, and we're sent here by God to basically rule over your, slavery. That's crazy. And you look at that, or you look at the fact that, they want us to believe that we are somehow, in this position because we was less than human, or they had to civilize us. It's crazy. It doesn't fit. So the context of history, as it pertains to Black people, has been, of course, covered up, and we're just putting out the truth. Again, it has nothing to do with racism, has nothing to do with being evil or what have you. It has to do with the truth, and it's all we put out. So when I get into these arguments with people, I always make that note that this is true history. You guys can all go look up for yourself. We can clearly see, as history shows us, who was there genetically, scientifically proven to be here before anybody. So how did you occupy Morocco, Northern Africa, all these other lands before us when we were clearly there, and we only lost the land due to conquest? History shows and proves that Black people were all over the world. We had established cities and civilizations. We traded with Europeans, we traded with Asians, we traded with people all over the world. And that was the norm. Everybody came into Black civilizations to trade. We were the ones who was the masters of everything, the seas, medicine, herbs, everything. And the Greek philosophers talk about coming into Egypt and learning from them. Herodotus again attests to the Egyptians being Black as well as other people as well. So clearly there was this teaching of us teaching the Greeks. And I broke all this stuff down, how they basically stabbed us in the back. This is history. This is history told by them. Conquest. What is that? So colonization is a word that exists. Conquest is a word that exists. It's their words. What is that? So if you're saying you were here before us and we didn't do these things and invent these things, then what the fuck is those things? What is conquest? What is colonization? Those words should not exist if you guys were there first. So the fact that these words exist and were invented and created by you, why are we having this argument? So it's one of the things I like to point out, that does the term colonization exist? Does conquest exist? Did those things happen? Yeah, clear as fucking day. And it's in history, it's in history books. Who were the people you conquered? Because you didn't conquer yourselves, right? You didn't colonize yourselves. There was a people who you obviously took those lands from. Clear as day, us, right? So again, the notion of America being this, Indian land where these people are clearly a mixed race people. That's a scientifically proven fact. So-called Native Americans are a mixture. And again, if you're a mixture, that means the people who you are mixed with came before you, right? Meaning we were there before you. It's all a lie. It's one of the biggest lies told. So if we can clearly scientifically prove that we was in the Americas first, how come we didn't get reparations, right? It's just telling you, and going back to everything I've been telling you guys since the beginning, since I first jumped on YouTube, that everything that's happening on this planet is about us. Plain and simple. It may sound cocky and arrogant to some of you. Some of you may think I'm just tripping because I'm Black or what have you. It is clear as day proven. So the people that's running everything has been using us to run everything. Our power, our consciousness is in control of it all, right? Hip hop culture, the movie industry, the music industry, how we have cemented our energy into these things, and they are at the forefront. Even Forbes, even Rolling Stone, even Time Magazine, all these publications give credit to Black people having the most influence on America as far as pop culture wise, right? It's been us. And then we can see that all over the world where people mimic us and try to basically do what we've been doing. And it's just the norm now because we're slowly, regressing because they're taking over what we used to have. You're seeing more white dancers and Asian dancers, and you have white rappers popping out, and everything we used to be the best at, they're becoming great at. We have all these European basketball players that's busting Black basketball players' ass, right? What's going on? We see this reverse, this control, which they want to see because it shows this adaptation, this adoption of what they wanted it to be, right? As far as an even playing field, not us being the dominant. But that's as far as it goes because genetically we are still dominant, but the genetics are changing as I got into before. So this is something that, we got to realize it's just deeper than just, history, and we're moving forward with a completely different history, much different than ancient history. Of course, we go back to relative history, and, even if we go back to the 60s or what have you, it's a lot changed since then. And these things happen to put in motion what we see today, put everything into context, what we're seeing today. But as far as, again, us trying to change history, in no way. We're just putting out exactly what history is showing and proving about who we are and our accomplishments on this planet. So I get into this argument and, I don't really stay in it too long because it's real easy to disprove and show people, one, Europeans, you're not indigenous to nowhere. Like, where is that? You can find indigenous Black people everywhere, all over the planet. And we know the systematic, racism one, but just the genocide that took place, and where you had the systematic process of taking Black people or dark-skinned people out of lands like Argentina and Brazil or what have you, Europe even, and a lot of these other islands where we're seeing dark-skinned people, and then now you have this mixture, right? Jamaica is increasingly becoming more Chinese than ever before. We're seeing this takeover, this infiltration, and it's been going on for decades, right? But it's something that they can never take from us. It's the fact that we were here first, and there's something to that. There's a history that's been hidden and covered up that we need to understand the before and what took place before. And for those of you who follow me deeply, I understand. You guys understand what I talk about. But a lot of people, again, it's not ready for that conversation, nor would they accept the truth about it. Because before we was this spiritual people, and we lived in spirituality. Everything was based on spirituality, and we didn't have this connection with the material that we needed to have to make everything balance, this dualistic reality that we live in. And this is what Europeans came and did. When you really pay attention, they gave us this reality that's based on materialism, while at the same time having this spiritual aspect, a different spiritual aspect. Because if we knew the truth, because our ancient ancestors, Black folks, knew what the fuck is out there. They knew what was going on. They understood the nature of reality and the purpose and point of all this. And we couldn't grow because of that. If you understand, we couldn't evolve because if you know, there is no mystery to it. There's nothing for you to grow from because you already know. There had to be opposition put in our way. There had to be something to tip the scale, right? To tip the scale so we can then balance it, which is what's taking place now. So everything that took place and happened for a reason, and it's going to be tough for people to accept that and understand it, but that's where the research will lead you to, and it's much deeper, right? Everything has to be dualistic, even our politicians. We like to think that all politicians are evil. It's not. A lot of these guys really want to help the people, but that's the balance. You have ones that don't, they just want to make money. You have ones that do. We got to look at it all, and all of it is just basically showing us that, there's this good and evil to everything. And there's a balance that we must understand in order to move forward. So slavery happened. And, once we got free and started to grow and develop into civilization in America, I mean, you can look at, white folks and they looking at us and they're like, we're copying them. This is where the hatred comes in at. They look over and see us in the suits, black people slicking their hair back, talking like them, getting educations, making money, buying cars, doing better than them because we had this drive, and this hatred develops that we're somehow copying them and trying to be like them, and it's annoying to them, and they hated it. And, it's all bullshit because we was the ones who civilized them and sophisticated them. And in no way were we trying to copy them, but to mimic for the sake of peace, right? So they look at all that, and this has been basically stemming ever since then, which is why when we started to really become conscious, we broke away from that. And people, doing afros and dashikis, started to embrace the African diaspora, understand more about history and, what took place. And we adopted that. We accepted that. But of course, what were we supposed to do when our history was covered up, and what we, everything we knew on how to be human and to exist came from Europeans. And it's something that we can't forget and we got to remember. But again, once that knowledge is put out there, then, you can choose to go left or right. But that's really all a distraction. It's about understanding you and the spiritual aspect of what all this means, and you balancing it. It's a lot deeper. But as far as history in the context of us talking about it, we're not trying to steal anybody's history at all. Our history was stolen, of course. And what's out there and what's in the history books and what's being taught to a lot of people is complete nonsense. Now I'm seeing more and more videos again on YouTube and more videos on social media of even white people revealing the truth, just pointing out things and talking about what was real. It's a common sense thing that is not hard to accept, especially when you think about everything I just said as far as us being here first. Something happened. You can't sit there and talk about this pride and love for a country and fairness and truth and honor and righteousness and so on and so forth when you got where you are because of conquest, because of murder, rape, and torture. How are you proud of that? That you're where you are because of those things. And then you get in power, have all the money that can ever exist, and you don't help the people that you stole your shit from. Something more to it. Not just, you don't help them. You control them to a point where you're controlling every single aspect of our growth. And it's deep. And it's something you got to look at as to, well, damn, what is it about these people that is so, so crazy that you got to have so much hate for them and control of them that you're scared of? Like, what is it about black people that all of this stuff continues to happen? We get to a point to where everything seems balanced and black and white people are fine. We're cool. We go win Super Bowls together. We win championships together. We do all this stuff. Then all of a sudden, boom, the media is putting out all this racist nonsense. And it's this, racist tone and this tension that exists. So we look at slavery. Look at racism. Look at Jim Crow South and all the racism that exists and all the stuff we still see to this day. Why would you expect them to give you the true history about black people? Why would you expect them to tell the truth about black people? Why would you expect them to teach you anything about us that existed before slavery? About us being kings and having kingdoms and having sophistication and civilizations that, were wealthy. Why would you expect that? So it's like white people believe that we made all this shit up, that we just making up this history. When you can just go look it up. When we talk about kingdoms in Africa that existed before European kingdoms, they think we're crazy. They think we're lying until they go see for themselves. When we talk about us existing before them, they really think that they are a pure race and they're not a mutation, that they really was here before we were. Because of the whole Neanderthal thing. And I told you guys, if you guys believe in Neanderthals, then you believe that the Europeans, or let's say that the ancestors of Europeans existed before us. Because that's what they have on an evolutionary chart, on an evolution chart, that, Neanderthals existed before us, right? So the thing is, if you want to say that Homo sapiens made it with these Neanderthals to create white people, black people come from Homo sapiens, then that would make you still part black, right? You got to understand that it's the history that they put out. But again, it don't make no sense because they're not giving us a true lineage back or a true evolution chart back to, something that makes sense. The whole missing link is still missing. And again, I showed you guys with Dr. Jun Lee and, Dr. Keith Chang, with Jun Lee basically proving that, the Homo Asian erectus don't exist. They came from Africa. We have all this proof. scientific proof coming from white folks and, you know, all these other people alike to basically back up everything that we're saying. Nothing to back up what you're saying. The Smithsonian has been proven to be bogus for a long time. Nobody is finding Neanderthal bones these days, but a lot of, you know, bones of black people have been found all over the world. And we can't point to, or nor can we prove, this mixing of Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. Now, again, a lot of people like to believe stuff is just outrageous and not understand genetically how we come about, and which would make things make sense. These people are mutation. It's proven we have the mutation. There's no way around it. Get over it. I mean, just look at the history. Just look at it. Look at everything. Look at the genetics. It's all there. It's all proven. Athleticism. I mean, everything that we see, we were always at the top of all these things. And it's been so many things that's been done to us and put in place to hinder us from, you know, really understanding all this. And, you know, having the capacity, the knowledge to do something about it. Because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Whoever has the knowledge is going to control moving forward. They have the knowledge. We don't have unity like we used to. So what's going on is what's going on. But what we have on our side is the truth. We have history. We have the truth. We can go back and point to everything that I'm talking about, and you can find it, right? It's out there. But yeah, just wanted to make this quick video to address that situation. And, you know, make sure you guys are checking the app for everybody that's in the society. Make sure you guys take care of that first payment for the Egypt trip next year, September 2nd, 10-day trip. It's going to be huge. Make sure you guys are gearing up for that. We got to get all this stuff straightened out. But, yep. Lots of new videos to come. Thanks for taking the time to watch. All links are in the descriptions for the Egypt trip. Join the society. Everything is in the description. So make sure you guys take a look. See you next video. Peace.